Доброго дня та добрий вечір. Від імені всіх нас із Флоридського міжнародного університету у Майамі, що у Флориді, США, доктор Хіларі Ландорф, виконавчий директор Офісу глобальних навчальних ініціатив, та я, Małgorzata Durygin, хотіли б палко привітати пані професор Наталію Шалену, доцента кафедри міжнародних відносин і дипломатичної служби та завідувача Центру публічної дипломатії Львівського національного університету імені Івана Франка, всіх її студентів, а також гостей зі Львова та Майамі і не тільки. Ми незмірно вдячні вам всім за те, що ви погодилися зустрітися з нами та з нами поспілкуватися. Ми хотіли б вам дуже подякувати за вашу боротьбу за свободу та демократію. Ми висловлюємо нашу щиросердечну підтримку для кожного з вас окрема та всієї України. Віримо разом з вами, що, як співають, в небо мрія ще злетить над вільною Україною, та надіємося, що незабаром ми сядемо разом з вами у Стефанія Експрес та поїдемо відвідати всі українські місця щасливих людей. Ну і, звичайно, паляниця. Дякую. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome our FIU students, faculty, administrators, and friends to one of our most noteworthy events. Today, we'll be speaking live with students and faculty who represent our counterparts at Ivan Franco National University in Lviv, Ukraine. On behalf of the FIU community, I'd like to express our profound appreciation and gratitude to our guests for their willingness and efforts to speak to us directly about their situation in Ukraine today. In this time, it is critical for us to hear directly from those who bear witness to history. Your direct testimony will help us build support for your individual and collective well-being. Please know that we are in awe at your strength of mind, body, heart, and soul as you continue your courageous fight for democracy. We'll first hear a few words from Dr. Natalia Shalena, then from the students. And please feel free to ask your questions during the hour in the chat, and the students will do their best to answer toward the end of the hour. On to Dr. Shalena. Natalia Shalena is an associate professor at the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy at Ivan Franco National University of Lviv, or IFNUL. In 2014, she conducted postdoctorate research on the integration of Muslim refugees from the post-Soviet area into the Netherlands at the University of Groningen. She also participated in Erasmus Plus teaching mobility programs, both in Turkey and Croatia. Since 2019, Natalia has been part of a team of researchers in the Erasmus Plus project, Rethinking Regional Studies, the Baltic Black Sea Connection. Dr. Shalena's research interests include European integration processes, the enlargement of the EU, Turkish foreign policy, and Muslim minorities in Europe, public diplomacy, and cultures and identities in international relations. Dr. Shalena, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Landorf, for such a long introduction of myself. And greetings to all of you, and Slava Ukraini, glory to Ukraine. I think this greeting has become the most important for us, not for only Ukrainians, but to the people of all over the world. And the most, and even more important, is the response to this greeting, glory to our heroes. So basically nowadays we are we have been in the very crucial period of our history, and the aggression of Russia against Ukraine and war in Ukrainian territories, which has been going on for 83 days and still has been causing sufferings and death to civilian people of Ukraine and to military of Ukraine. I think that in these developments, throughout these developments, it's very important, crucially important to organize such events, to hear the voices of witnesses of such events, to hear the voices of Ukrainians who are experiencing this. And we really appreciate this invitation from your university, from your side. And I really much hope for the very fruitful conversation. And I hope that this conversation and today's discussion can cause a real effect into your hearts, because communication, especially between the young people, understanding of the events which are still going on in Ukraine, making Ukraine the basic headlines of all the discussions throughout the civilized world, and providing the real and true information about what we are experiencing right now is very important. So I wish this discussion to be very fruitful, and I encourage all of the students, Ukrainians, to share their experience. And I encourage also the American students to ask some questions, to maybe you want to know more about us, about our country, and about the events we are experiencing today. So thank you and welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you again. So we have several prepared questions for the students, and we'd like to get answers for each question from 3 or 4 students so that all of you has a chance to share your experiences. And we'll ask the questions in English. Margazata would then translate into Ukrainian, and please feel free to respond to the questions in the language of your choice. And at the end of the hour, we'll have a chance for the FIU counterparts to ask questions, and please, FIU counterparts, feel free to put your questions in the chat throughout the hour. So first question, very simply, what's your day-to-day life like?
Jak зараз виглядає ваше щоденне життя?
Yulia, you can be the first one to start.
Okay, thank you so much for such a discussion, for having and for getting us such opportunities. And actually, to tell you the truth, my life remains quite normal. And it is, of course, thanks to our army and thanks to the God. But actually, what I mean by this quite normal, I mean having a time to study, having a time to relax, having a time to live in your hometown, having a time to spend this time, with your relatives, with your family. But of course, every one of us realizes such fear of being killed by a Russian airstrike. As we know, only this evening, Russia strike at Yavoriv district, and it was military facilitation. But of course, there were lots of another damage for homes of different peoples. And I live actually not far along from this district. And also we hear, my family and my relatives hear this explosion. We hear the noise from this explosion. And I actually, firstly, I can't even believe this, that such cruel war could happen in 21st century. And now I realize that maybe it happens because we need to win over this evil. We need simply to win over this evil. And what else I could tell you about my day-to-day life? Yeah. Also, I try to enjoy my life. Yeah, I try to live every day like and yeah, like it could be the end. Yeah, I realize that we are not sure what could happen next time, what could happen next day, and so on and so forth. And of course, it exerts some pressure on our mental health. And to tell you the truth, yeah, sometimes I feel myself a bit tired. I feel myself a bit confused. I feel myself a bit embarrassed, yeah. But then I try simply to devote some time to my family. I try to be like without negative news, yeah. I try this day devote simply for myself, yeah. Because nowadays, I cannot even imagine my life and my morning without searching different issues, different pieces of news that touch upon this war in Ukraine. Yeah, this war in Ukraine, you know. Okay, and also the last point which I want to inform you is that sometimes when chatting with my friends, we tell ourselves that we feel, as I said before, embarrassed, we feel tired and something like this. And every one of us realizes why it happens. Yeah, as I said before, that it's such a pressure on our mental health. And we don't actually tell that it is because of this, that the reason is this war. We tell ourselves that it is simply because of weather conditions or something like this, but we do realize that it is not like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. Okay.
Yes, like I wouldn't say that currently, like it's already like 3 months of the war, the life came back to normal, especially on Western Ukraine, Western part of Ukraine, because there are not that many bombings here. But lately, I'm noticing different details about my life that changed. Like the first 2 months of the war, I couldn't even watch stories on Instagram about people. Like I have many friends from the United States because I used to do some exchange program, and I couldn't watch their stories about them living their lives while we have been killed in here. We've been warning thousands of people massacred. They were killed there were atrocities, disgusting atrocities in here, and people were just living lives in there. And it was really difficult to understand that the whole world is watching. And sometimes they are not even watching. They don't want even like, and it was difficult for us to understand that there is not enough attention for us, that we are just like another war, that we are just another stuff like that. And currently, like especially the last month, sometimes when I go to eat and I eat something really tasty, every time I grab some food for myself, I notice that I start thinking about the sieged city of Mariupol. And I remember that on Orthodox Easter, they, like the defenders of Mariupol, they posted some photos. They had just like a small sandwich they could place on their palm. And it was like even smaller than their palm. And it was their Easter breakfast. And it was like 4 or 3 months ago, 4 or 3 weeks ago. And right now it's really like a month passed since then. And every time I eat, I remember their breakfast, and I understand they probably have nothing to eat right now. And every time I eat, I feel like guilty because I have something to eat and I cannot share it with them because people are dying there, and thousands, especially like around like 100,000 people are in the city and they're besieged and they have no food. So like the life is going like every day. I'm writing my thesis, I'm working on my education. Life is going here, but so many details have changed since then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dmitro. Ola, what can you say about
Hello. Yeah.
your everyday life?
My everyday life, I don't think that it's maybe changed a lot because I'm still working, I'm still studying, I'm still like trying to go to socialize with my friends or the friends that just stayed in this city, because a lot of my friends, relatives fled to the Europe, to other countries, and we can't be close enough to make contact. Yes. So my day is like studying, then air alarm, then just go to coffee or and then other studying, then just night with an air alarm, and just like on and on and on and on, and it's been repetitive, and it's, I don't know, it makes me disgusted of this life, because it doesn't change. I know that I'm pretty in great conditions, that the city of Lviv is not that bombed like Kiev or Mariupol or Kharkiv, like that cities. We are pretty in comfortable conditions, but still you feel like community-based, like a community feeling of fear, community feeling of like really bad moods, really like exhausting moods. You can't be focused on like on thesis, you can't focus on music, you can't focus on movies, series, or just think that you loved before the war. It's just like the point before the war, after the war, or like in the war. You just starting to become more in yourself, maybe someone trying to help others to overcome these things. For me, it's about like to be in me, to be pointing in me, to be like helping firstly me, then others. Like also in the first months of war, I volunteered a lot, like some centers or just translating some things or from policemen and a lot of things. But this task, this work, you can't. You can differentiate it. You can like think that it's great or it will be enough. There's always not enough for you to do something. You're always like in the news, you're always like trying to post stories, trying to like to fund some hryvnias, to some funds to buy a new weapon or to help some people, even though you're a student that don't have much money to live. But you, every time you think that it's not enough. Yeah, and it's like the thought that been living in my head for 3 months. That's my day-to-day basis life. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, La. But I'm sure that your role and role of each of us is crucially important in our future victory. Danilo, maybe you can share that.
Okay, so when the war started, I think my life turned quite upside down, I would say, because as soon as the war started, I was for quite a while obsessed with, for example, checking the news, chatting with, or rather no, checking on my friends, like how are they doing, because like, yeah, I live in Lviv. It's more or less safe city in the current situation in Ukraine. But like, I was primarily worried about my friends and relatives who lived, for example, in Kiev, which has been shelled regularly until the Russian troops retreated from the Kiev Oblast and like the whole northern Ukraine. There's still a friend of mine who lives in occupied Kherson. I'm still rather worried about him. There's a friend of mine who was in Kharkiv when the war started. Like during that period when the war basically started, I was like, I couldn't get a proper sleep. I would stay like until 5 a.m. constantly checking on the people and the news. But other than that, and like in the current situation, I think my day-to-day life isn't that different from what I used to have before the war started. Like it goes like this. I wake up, I check on my phone, and I just go on with my usual daily routine. But there's one thing that constantly bogs in my mind, and that is the risk of having something dropped on your house from the sky by the Russian troops. And you know, having a little sister makes it even worse, because like I'm the person who's worried about the others more than about myself, and being worried about you know, my own house, my family, it makes my day-to-day life quite let's just say disturbed. And like other than that, I don't think my day-to-day life has changed.
Thank you for that. We're going to go on to the next question, and please, those of you who have your hand raised, please feel free to answer the next question, which is, what do you want us to know about the situation in Ukraine? You know, we read, we look online, we have social media, but you're there. What would you like us to know that we're not reading about?
Що б ви нам хотіли сказати, чого ми не знаємо про ситуацію в Україні, бо ми тут читаємо якісь новини, але не все знаємо. Так що давайте щось нам розповідьте, прошу.
Can you?
Yeah, okay. So I would also tell you some of the words, some of the thoughts that I have and that I gained since the war started. And also it is worth mentioning that at the beginning of the war, in the first days, there was a huge burst of patriotism, and many men returned to Ukraine from abroad, where they were working or doing businesses and so on. And as for me, one of the interesting facts was that I contacted some people who worked with refugees in Sweden, in other European countries, and they were surprised by the fact that refugees from Ukraine consisted mostly from women, from children, being underaged, and not so many adult men were among them, and most of that men, they returned to Ukraine to join the Ukrainian army, to territorial defense forces, and so on. In fact, now many people began to return to their regions and regions of Ukraine where they left because of the war. And however, there are still many people who have now nowhere to return, many of whom are my friends, and their houses were lowered to the ground and or occupied by Russian troops. And that is one of the most terrifying things in this war, because people who do not know where they can return after that, they suffer actually the most. Also, it was clearly that war between Ukraine and Russia will happen, but it was hard to imagine that it will have place in the heart of Europe. Yeah, and it was also very, very difficult to accept. And as for me, as for Ukrainian, it is a pleasure to see how the reaction of European countries, of United States of America is slow, but it is so needed, and we need your support, we need your attention, and we need the sharing of information, because there are so much of facts that cannot cover the proper audience, and it's just very, very difficult to handle it all by our own means. And because the first thing we need is arms, weapons, and the secondary is also humanitarian aid, and we are very grateful to the United States for all the support it gives us, and we hope that the war will end soon and we will meet again, maybe in Kyiv or in the United States. So God help us all.
God help us all. Thank you. Anna?
Thank you for this conference and thank you for giving me the floor. It's nice that you have interested in this event, and I would like to comment about information you should know about Ukraine. So it's obviously our history. We would like everyone to know why Crimea Peninsula is in any circumstances should be returned to Ukraine, because it's the legal territory of Ukraine. Why it is not civil war in the east of Ukraine, but it was always Russian war in Ukraine, that it was Russian troops that invaded Ukraine in 2014, and it was full-scale invasion in 2022, this February. It's very important to know the truth, to spread these truths. We have a lot of trustworthy resources of information. Even our university created Students' Embassy in Instagram to spread this information among students of other colleges, among students all over the world. So it's basically very important to know the truth about our history. And for those of you who has interest in a law, to record, count all the violations of Geneva, Hague Conventions, of international humanitarian law, criminal law Russia has made. Because I think a lot of people knew about Nuremberg process, and so the future will be the same with Russia. It will be a big trial process, and for that time we need a lot of evidence of Russia violation of law. And of course, we need your support in spreading information, because it is hard for Ukraine to start in informational field of foreigners. People can get tired of this constant news about Ukraine and war, but it concerns everyone. It is about freedom, it is about democracy, and so it is very nice that today we are heard by you, and we hope that in future it will continue.
Thank you, Anna. Shizana?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I can talk a lot about it because I'm working with refugees and as a volunteer, so I communicate with them and have loads of stories to share with you. And even though they are too much cruel, really, but it is the truth that's happening right now. These people, like for example, one woman from Kharkiv told me this violent actions of Russian invaders with people who were teaching at school, and there were just teachers, and not only did Russians kill them, but also they rape women, and then just take some days into prison, but not in a horrible, in a much horrible conditions than that, and then just shoot it them. Also, I heard about how people cooked in Mariupol, and actually in order to just feed their children, their families, throughout these bombs flowing over your head, they just tried to cook something on the bridge bricks, even outside their houses or in basements or whatever, just to try some water to boil, or just to make this simple soup, just to eat something. And also I heard loads of stories that even having food, people in such stress conditions can't even eat it, because they're so stressed, and it's so really scary when you understand that your house and everything, your belongings and your life can be stolen just in 1 second by a rocket or something. I also heard stories that even the buildings were shaking like this, and during this time it was so dangerous even to go to. I can't express it actually with my words. I'm currently writing a book about all the story I collect, in order to share with the world, because I think it's important to know from people their experiences, in order to just understand the real outlook of all these events. Because we read the news, but we can't manage to understand the full tragedy of this situation that happens. What else can I tell? Actually, the robbing of the bombed houses as well. We were collecting some plates and cooking equipment, because when Russians go inside their houses, even bombed houses, they steal just everything, and people then can't manage to cook something because they have no plates or just cups in order to feed themselves, and loads of others cruel things, really cruel. I have my friend from Luhansk, and he told like his grandfather was just with the flow of this bomb just blowed up, you feel like you are going through this narrow street, and you understand that people here can be killed. And also like the story when people were waiting for humanitarian aid, I have an evidence for this, because it's like my close acquaintance from Kharkiv as well. They were just waiting for humanitarian aid, and then 6 people were just killed in this queue. And when they just go like to buy some food in the supermarket, just 2 minutes afterwards, the supermarket was blown up. Loads of people just died here, and yeah, loads of examples of this cruelness and violence. And I hope that, of course, after our victory, they will pay for this, and just the world needs to know this truth. So thank you for this conference.
Thank you. And one more response for this question from Victoria.
Thank you very much. I had to leave Ukraine 2 months ago, so basically the only people I've been communicating with were the people from the West and US including. And there's one thing that people tend to be very wrong about, and it's how they perceive Russians and Russia as a state, Russian opposition, and Russia as like people. There is this very common narrative that not all Russians are bad, and I won't say that all of them wanted the war to happen, but also the thing that you need to know is that Putin's support rose to stunning 81% in Russia since the war started. Before it was like 20% lower. And also this narrative about the pro-democratic liberal opposition that the West is trying to portray as very positive, but it's actually not. If you dig deeper into it, it's just very propagandistic message, and it's just as dangerous. This new regime that they were trying to promote is just as dangerous as the current one. So I really encourage you to dig into the topic and to study Russian propaganda. And also it has been like the main topic of my scientific interest right at the moment for a while now. And I've been studying how Russian propaganda affects the US in particular. And I would say that the instruments that they're using are very hard to identify. So probably when you're reading Twitter or just scrolling on Instagram, you don't even realize that you're now consuming the Russian sponsored content, because it's basically just troll armies and sponsored accounts. So the thing that the people from the West have to understand is that you're all basically a target of Russian propaganda at the moment, and believing in Russian propaganda, even without realizing it, is something that contributes to more Ukrainians being killed. So it's actually very urgent, and I wish people were paying more attention to that.
Thank you so much for this important message, Victoria. On to the next question, and please, those of you who haven't had an opportunity to speak, please, we encourage you to do so. So what can we do from here, from FIU and from the United States, to help you and your family and friends and to help Ukraine? What can we do to help?
Як ми зі Штатів чи у нас з університету можемо допомогти вам, вашій родині, вашим друзям і цілій Україні?
Maria.
Yeah, thank you so much for the floor. Also really pleased to have this meaningful conversation. And perhaps as we all have this experience of collaborating with people from different countries, probably the question that we hear the most is, how can we help? We're praying for you. We hope everything goes best. But sometimes we are saying thank you so much, but there are actually some things you can do to help us. And first of all, it's donations. We have a lot of great, responsible and reliable organizations that are governmental and not governmental. They're collecting donations in different currencies, so both US dollars, euros, and Ukrainian, and of course, even cryptocurrency. Perhaps one of the things that you should know about Ukraine is really digitally developed, sorry. And we have many different initiatives to donate in really modern ways. And we will post some of the links of the organizations that we trust in the chat. So perhaps even if it's $2 or $1, it would help a lot, and any of us can do it. And we really encourage others, to think about this one coffee that I could have drank today, but it would help a Ukrainian child, for example. The second thing is, of course, spreading the information. As my colleague said before, Russian propaganda is a really intensely sponsored machine, and they're spending a lot of money on this. And a lot of Ukrainians have actually joined the IT army or the Twitter army, where we are in those social media trying to combat actually on the field, but in this online field with those bots. And it's really useful if you are familiar with the topic or you study political science and you see this information is incorrect. This is propaganda, for example, Nazis. This is really easy for you because now you know that the Ukrainian president is Jewish, for example. This cannot be correct. We are not Nazis. Then you're starting a conversation on Twitter. And it's really useful if you spend, for example, 10 minutes to fight this bot and actually end this conversation with more likes than this person that is spreading the false information. I had this experience for many times. It takes some time, but then sometimes you enjoy spreading the truth even more than something material, so to say. And of course, when you're speaking with other people who have some doubts, who have some personal experience with the Russians, that they, for example, they have their own personal good experiences in the field that is overlying with the war, and you have the chance to have a discussion with them, have a discussion. Because sometimes people are not really they're not really sure about what's happening, because this is really new. You all know that all of the students were not really sure what Ukraine is, what's Ukrainian history, as we said before. So now we need to develop the knowledge as much as we can, devote the time to Ukraine and try to help in these ways. Yeah, that's what I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. This is why it's crucially important to use all the formats of experts, political representatives, and students' formats. So who didn't respond yet? Haven't responded yet.
So everyone has responded once, so you.
Then we should go around. Julia. Anatoly.
Okay, so I may add, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Actually, I want to talk about economic issues, economical issues. And I want to point out why it is so essential for us, because we see that Ukraine's economy actually is collapsing under the Russia's scale invasion, and we could see this simply by the information that more than 25% of businesses were closed. They are closed now. And of course, also there are the number of businesses that have stopped its function have decreased from I think it was 37% in March to 17 in May. So we see that it decreased, but also there are blocked seaports of Ukraine in Mariupol, in Kherson, and actually Russia's Navy try to preventing not only from export but also from import. When we talk about export, it's about exporting grain and others Ukrainian products, and also when we talk about import, it's about fuel, which we need to power agricultural sector, and all of this cause inevitable damage to our economy, as I also could state that, and I have heard that information, and I have read the information that for Ukraine's economy, it cost more than $130 per day. So thank you.
Thank you.
So if we're talking about what help can be provided to Ukraine, so I would like to emphasize once again the importance of assisting the Ukrainian army in liberating the occupied territories. In fact, I can tell you the story to personalize it. It is a story of my friend who managed to leave Mariupol under complete artillery fire to its so he came to Lviv and he joined the Ukrainian army the next day, and now he went to fight in the Donbass where fierce fighting is taking place, and meanwhile Russian troops entering Mariupol are seizing documents from local authorities, and the documents contain information about Ukrainians who have been active members of civil society organizations and non-governmental organizations, and his photos and documents are now have already hit the internet, and he's worried about the fate of his relatives and parents who remained in occupied Mariupol due to hearing problems, and according to Snezhana, it's most likely that they will be simply killed if they are not sent to live in Siberia. So that my routine problems does not compare to this in any means. So if you can reach your local authorities or the governmental powers, non-governmental organizations, and ask them for providing Ukrainian military assistance or financial assistance, as my colleague had previously said, it will help so much, and so much stories like this exists, and every needs attention and every needs the proper solution. So it's also very important to be active not only on the internet but also in real life, and it will be very appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anatoly, you left some words.
And I want to remind you about some cultural context of this war. It's not also in this physical fighting. It's about our identity, Ukrainian identity, with like Russian identity. We want to like conquer Ukrainian identity and just like destroy it. While we know Dostoevsky, Tolstoy in world culture and world history, we don't know about Shevchenko, Skovoroda, like Lesa Ukrainka. it also was the big figures in world history, in world literature, in world philosophy. Maybe the easiest way to just not to help us to maybe to understand us more is to just read it. It just discover our literature, discover our culture, music. It's pretty modern these days. It's pretty easy to just connect, to just Google it, or just to write for Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian poetry, and like this. And it's like the small change you can make in your mind, you can make in your in your worldview, that can help us too. So it's also more on cultural level than also in the physical fightings. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We have a question that is a good follow-up from Ole, your response just now, and I'd like to ask this question from one of our FIU counterparts. And the question is this: if education could have a way to prevent this from happening again, in your opinion, what should education include? So you just mentioned reading Ukrainian authors who we don't know about. What else should education include? Are there any topics that education should include, or other Ukrainian authors that we should be reading to prevent such a hideous event from happening again? And I'll open it to anyone.
Ми дістали таке запитання, якщо едукація могла б не допустити до того, щоб це повторилося ще раз. На вашу думку, як ви думаєте, що повинна така едукація включати? Бо ви сказали вже про critical thinking, про критичне читання, про пропаганду. Скажіть нам, будь ласка, які інші теми едукація повинна включати?
I would start if no one has nothing about it. Yeah. So first of all, it seems to me that the citizens of the countries bordering Russia can be helped by military service courses, which I gladly started a year ago. But seriously, it is difficult to do anything with a nation that does not understand and does not want democracy, but only the enslavement of other nations. So it's very difficult questions, because many of the analytical centers, many of the NGOs, many of the media that worked in Russia, they did not achieve any goals, because even the opposition, so-called opposition in Russian Duma, in Russian society, is backed by Kremlin, backed by Russian-controlled media, Russian-controlled politicians, and it's the whole system is so corrupted that it's barely could done something with that. And it's questions that we do not understand yet, because for many years analyticals, politicians, and other experts in the matters of Russia, which I read, they didn't understand how the Russia is built, and which are the pillars of that society. So it may be that education, that the Russian people needs education, and not the people of countries who are situated around. So that's just my answer, my thoughts.
Thank you, Anatoly. Svetlana?
Yes, I'm very happy to also to invite our colleague, one of our colleagues from the Faculty of International Relations, Svetlana. Can you turn on the microphone, Svetlana? The mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Sorry for not having been introduced before, because I haven't filled the application form, let's say. I am a co-teacher of Global Understanding class with Natalia Shalena, and we've been teaching this class for a couple of years already. Yeah, this is really very important that you are doing and inviting us to join this conversation and conversations like that. And also for the previous question, I would add, if you want to get some more like education on the topics, I would ask you to read Harry Kasparov. This is the ex-chess champion, world chess champion from Russia, but he had to immigrate to the United States in New York City now, and he founded the movement Free Russia with other prominent Russian personalities who think critically, and in his Facebook posts there are a lot of info how to understand nowadays Russia, what's going on there, and how people are subjected by the authorities, main authorities. And his idea how to transform Russia from within, from inside, are really worth listening to. And so I would suggest Harry Kasparov and his Facebook posts. Oh yeah, thank you very much, Greg. Thank you. Yeah. While living in Russia, Harry Kasparov was had been taken to prison for several times because he was one of the leaders of democratic movements, and during demonstrations he had been taken to prisons, but that was unbelievable to watch those news on TV, because world chess champion, the very famous chess player, grandmaster, taken to prison for what? For his democratic position. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. We'll hear from Ola.
Yeah, I want to just like about education. There's something that like I've seen a lot of times in Western Europe, in like some publications by Western authors. They see this war, this conflict, by their point of view, like NATO versus Russia, and it's like it's maybe it's kind of rude, because we have like our conflict in Russia versus Ukraine because of our imperial history, because they are imperialistic history, because of our history, not also like NATO or versus Russia and that. Because you maybe in education we need to conclude the things that not only like big geopolitical strategies, and also in the region we have our problems that is kind of a reason for this war also. So that's a small piece of.
Got it. Thank you. And Maria?
Yeah, and personally about the education from the Ukrainian side, I would like to add that it's crucially important to establish these personal connections that we have right now. Maybe perhaps you would have a chance to actually visit one of the Eastern European countries in the future. Then it will help you to understand both all of the cultural, political, and other aspects of what this region is going through, because perhaps for the United States, it's a little bit too far and it hasn't been in the spotlight. And now in this period, maybe also we're speaking about the future, which is also really important. Try to, if you wish, we could continue the communication with you. If you're interested in something else, not just this short meeting, that would be also great, because we're really open to further communication and yeah, everything that comes to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria. And yes, we're very interested in continuing the conversation. Thank you for that offer. We'd like to leave with one final question, Natalia, if that's okay, and if we could hear from each of you one word or phrase that you'd like to leave us with, one word or phrase that that you would like us to remember. So let's start with Danilo.
Okay, so one phrase to leave you with. I think it's gonna be Ukraine will never surrender.
Got it. Thank you. Maria.
I think for me is Ukraine means freedom.
Thank you. Svetlana. Okay, we have Svetlana.
I have
Yes.
one word for you to remember. Excuse me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Probably there is something wrong with internet connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Great. One word from me about today's Ukraine: resilience.
Thank you. Anna.
Someone of you write in the chat to teach you some phrases in Ukrainian. Ukrainian, for example, Ukraine will win. So I would like you to remember it. Україна здобуде перемогу in Ukrainian.
Thank you. Thank you. Ole.
Maybe the one phrase, I hope that is the last war in Ukraine in our world. I hope so.
Oh, thank you, Ole. Dimitra?
I want to tell you that the real genocide begins when the people are killed not because of what they done, but because of who they are. So stop genocide in Ukraine and be brave like Ukrainians.
Thank you. Thank you. Natalia?
Well, I wanted to say be brave as Ukrainians, be courageous as Ukrainians, but please, you know, I like the phrase of one of my students that told in one of our meetings that I'm a bit sorry for you that you can't feel yourself in our identity, in our place, that you don't know how to feel to be Ukrainian. So if you would like to feel that, then you have to speak with Ukrainians. Please call them, please ask them, how are you? Are you still okay? Are you secure? So yes, be free as Ukrainians.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity? Anna? Yes.
Some of the students are asking for the emails of our students. So we can share them, I think so.
Leo, and Leo, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
You're muted. Michelle, can you unmute?
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Hi, so thank you for allowing me to speak in this important meeting. I just wanted to quickly mention, I'm an FIU student. I'm in Miami currently, but I actually got back from Ukraine about a month ago. I went to Lviv to organize a beautiful memorial, and I just want to let the students aware that the memorial is still there. It's right in front of the King Danilo monument in central Lviv. It's really, really powerful. Every day people send me pictures of people walking by and crying and having a really special moment to just a quick description of it. It's basically pictures of the victims that have been killed in Ukraine, surrounded by thousands and thousands of really beautiful flowers. It's a really special place to visit, and it's also a canvas. So people are adding their own pictures, they're adding their own artworks, and it's becoming something special in and of itself. So please, if anyone can make it there, can pass by to witness it. It's in front of the King Danilo monument. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo, for taking part in everything. Svetozar, maybe you wanted to say something.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I would like just to make a short little conclusion what is going on in my mind, to express myself. And first of all, I would like to thank to the organizers for the opportunity to speak here and the opportunity to have our voice heard. And, you know, as my colleague said, our life
has really changed a lot in terrible way. Everything's changed, our life, routine, dreams, hopes, all our plans have changed because of invasion by Russia and a constant air alarms and threat of rockets fire. And it's really scary because as we mentioned before, only tonight we were fired by missiles and were shut down by the 7th hyper missile just about 2 miles from us. And it's happened all the time. It happened through the whole Ukraine, killing civilians, children, the peaceful infrastructure. And I just like to say that I'm happy the United States, the whole world, stand with the people of Ukraine, with Ukraine as we suffer unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russia, and invasion of Ukraine that shows the immorality and horrific lawlessness of the evil Russian regime and the Russians who support this. Because destruction, violence, killing of innocents, genocide must be stopped. And if we don't stop it now, I think this horrific action could turn easily into global war where there will be no winners in it. And some of the people around the world call it special military operation against the Nazis. Even I had a negative experience communicating with the American student who said that Ukrainians are Nazis. So I want to say that it's a big, huge lie, because how we are Nazis. We don't want to live just because we don't want to live under totalitarian rule, or we don't to live under Russian occupation, just because we want to be part of West civilized and democratic family that we are undoubtedly part of, or just because some crazy psychopath who's sitting in the bunker in Russia wants to destroy our country. So, and some old wise man, Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the Great Britain during the World War II, said that the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists. And we just need to understand that Ukraine is not just fighting for its own people, and country and sovereignty, but it's fighting for freedom, dignity, and humanity. And I think all of us Ukrainians are proud and brave people who deserve your help in our time of need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Natalia, would you like to close us out?
Well, I can't even, express my feelings about today's meeting, because usually, first of all, I'm very happy to see all of my students here, which basically have very little time to share their experience, because they, honestly speaking, they are very much engaged into several activities. I mean, volunteering, studying, participating in different conferences, and so on and so forth. So I do appreciate that, and I really appreciate all of you from the Florida International University coming here and paying some, showing the interest in Ukraine, showing the interest in Ukrainians. And I do appreciate that. We all appreciate that. But don't stop being interested. Don't stop being worried about us, because the war has been still going on. The war is not something that is just, some film actions or something like that. It's still happening, and it's still very real in Ukraine. Basically, the students who gathered together today, they are from Lviv, from western part of Ukraine, are still in Lviv. And they have this feeling, or maybe they are, of course, undergoing and experiencing everything. But those who are in the hotspots, they were not able to join us today. But still, they are, many more people are suffering. And please do not forget about this. Please share some, ask all of your friends or relatives who are still in Ukraine, ask them how you can help them. And all of your assistance, all of your support, even your warm words, they are very important to us. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for this, for the organization of this very crucially important event. And I kindly also invite you to a cooperation with us, with our university and faculty. And I think that we will be very happy to have some joint events in the future, maybe in our peaceful period in Ukraine. And I'm very much looking forward for this victory. And I thank Malgorzata for expressing your feelings about meeting somewhere in peaceful Ukraine. And I encourage all of you and I welcome all of you to come to Ukraine to feel the Ukraine. So thank you for hearing the voices of the students today and looking forward to our future cooperation.
Well, thank you. And Margazata, would you like to add your thanks?
Ми дуже дякуємо вам, що ви прийшли. Ви дуже хоробрі. Будемо з вами у зв'язку. Просто це просто неймовірно, що ви змогли це для нас зробити. Це величезний урок для всіх тут. Так треба робити, треба даватися чути, бо інакше люди забувають. І щоб підтримувати їхню увагу про це, що діється в Україні. Це обов'язково треба надалі робити. Дякуємо вам дуже. Все буде Україна.
Все буде Україна. Однозначно. Дякуємо дуже за вашу підтримку.
Glory to Ukraine.
Well, again, please know awe at your strength, and we will absolutely continue the conversation in a peaceful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe and sound.
Yes, you stay safe and sound, please.
We will, definitely.
Побачення.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for opportunity. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. See you.
До зустрічі.